Were you ever a member of totalitarian group, terrorist group? Did you ever try to overthrow the government? A member of the Nazi Party? Again, all of these should be no. Have you ever called yourself a non-resident or a tax return? No, you are a legal permanent resident. Again, all of these should be no. And when the officer asks you these questions, please listen carefully. You might automatically say no because you know that these answers are no. But the officer could say, do you pay your taxes on time? And then the answer would be yes. So please listen carefully to what the officer is saying and make sure that you understand the question before you reply. And again, we will go over interviews when we're done reviewing the application. Did you ever commit a crime for which you were not arrested? Page 8. If anyone has any history with any arrests, citations, any time in jail, they need to obtain a copy of a court disposition. They would call the city hall wherever the offense took place, wherever they were seen, and they would ask for a disposition of arrest, and the court will mail that to you. Sometimes they ask you that you come and pick it up personally, and you will include that with this application, and you would list where you were arrested, the date, and what was the outcome. Again, I don't want to discourage you from applying if you've had one shoplifting offense, there was some incident. You should definitely seek counsel, but you need to include it in this application. You're going to be giving your fingerprints, and if you were arrested, the INS will be consulting with the FBI, and your fingerprints will turn up. So please be honest on this application. They're asking you if any problems with drugs, alcohol, illegal gambling, prostitution. Again, I would assume that these would all be no. Give false information to a government official to gain entry to the United States. I assume it would be no. Page 9 is asking if you were ever in removal or deportation. If you were, I suggest that, again, you consult an attorney. If you've ever served in the armed forces, they would like to know as well. Part G is asking for information on selective service, which is our draft. Any male who has lived in the United States, male only, between their 18th and 26th birthday needs to register with selective service, and that is the draft. That's only if you came here between your 18th and your 26th birthday as a permanent resident and did not apply for the draft. If you are here and did not apply for the draft, you need to get in touch with selective service. And again, please feel free to call me and I will tell you how to get a letter from selective service so that you would be eligible. Please do not apply unless you have contacted selective service. Oath requirements. These are the yes questions. Do you support the Constitution and form of government of the United States? And the answer should be yes. If you don't support the Constitution, then you should not be applying for U.S. citizenship. Do you understand the oath? I suggest that you understand that you are pledging allegiance to the United States, which means that you support the Constitution and that you're loyal to the country. Are you willing to take the oath of allegiance? Yes, you are. If the law requires it, are you willing to bear arms on behalf of the United States? If the United States asked you to carry a gun, would you be willing to do that? And the answer that they're looking for is yes. If the law requires it, are you willing to perform work of national importance? Anything that your government asks you to do, you are willing to do for your country. And that's what they're asking for. Okay. The last page is simply signing your application and dating it. Again, do not date this application before you are eligible, even if you prepare it before. Do not sign or date it before you are eligible. If someone assisted you in completing this application, so oftentimes when I assist people, I will put my name in this slot. Do not fill out anything past this slot where it says, note, do not complete parts 13 and 14. They mean it. They will get very angry. This is what you will be completing at your interview. So stop right there. So you will take this application completed with the photos, with the check, with a copy of the green card, and you will mail it to USCIS, P.O. Box 66060, Dallas, Texas 75266 if you live in New Jersey. And I've given you instructions on where to file. You do not have to overnight it, but I do suggest that you send it registered certified mail, but you don't have to. And I strongly suggest that you keep a copy of the application for yourself. All right, does anyone have any questions on that process? All right, once you mail this application, USCIS will receive it and send you a receipt within 30 days to your home. If I'm your representative, I will get a copy as well. It will have a receipt number just like it did for your green card, and you will make sure to hold on to that receipt. If any of the information is incorrect, you need to notify them. You can call the 800 number and notify them that way as well. Within 2 weeks from the date that you receive the receipt, you will receive a notice to appear for fingerprinting. It is not at the 970 Broad Street site. It is somewhere in Elizabeth City, which is close to Newark. It gives you the exact address and the time and the date that you need to appear for fingerprints. It's not in Newark. It says Elizabeth City, but it's very close to Newark. It gives you the address where you need to go. If for some reason you cannot make it on that day, there's a tear-off form to reschedule. So if you can't make it that day for a good reason, I mean, I believe that you would want to just continue with the process and not delay, go have your fingerprints taken on this day. You will need to provide your fingerprint invitation letter and your passport and your green card as ID. You will be fingerprinted, and then you will wait to receive notice for the interview. I would say from the date that you apply, it's about 4 months' time, and then you will be notified to appear for the interview at the Newark Service Center at 970 Broad Street in Newark. I strongly suggest that you appear at the time of the interview. Do not try to reschedule that, because INS has your file and is expecting you that day. If something happens and you don't come to the interview, they will close your file and send you a letter that they've closed your file. And if you want to reopen it, you need to prove that there was a very good reason why you couldn't attend on that day. If something happens to you on that day, please notify. If someone helped you apply, notify the accredited rep or the attorney, and I would immediately email the supervisor and tell them what happened to with your situation. But you must go on that day. All right? So now, unless you have any other questions, I'd like to tell you about the interview. It is on the 15th floor. Sometimes they give you a notice to appear on the 14th floor, so read it carefully, but most of the time it's on the 15th floor. You will go to USCIS, to the building, at the time that they tell you. You can even come a half hour before. And you will present your ID. You will be scanned when you come in. They will definitely tell you to empty your pockets. You have to take off your belt. You will go through the security check. Then you will go up to the 15th floor. They will ask you to show the letter and your ID. Then you will go into this large room where you will be called for your interview. As soon as you enter that room, you will be told that you need to place your letter at the front desk. So just have your letter in your hand, your invitation letter, and place it at the window. There are a lot of signs pointing to where you need to place that letter. And then you have a seat and you wait for the officer to call your name. So you need to listen carefully, because they'll be calling a lot of names. There is a microphone, and they're calling people to the window, and they're calling people to the door. Those people who are called to the door are going to be interviewed. And they will call your name, and they will say your name, and they will tell you door 1, door 2, door 3. They are clearly marked. You will go to that door. Don't try to force it open. It will be locked. You will meet the officer on the other end. The officer will open the door. And it's a good idea to just say good morning or good afternoon, so the officer knows that they're working with someone who understands English. And I think you're off to a better start that way. I would not suggest that you speak a lot, not to be chatty, but just to say good morning or good afternoon would be a polite way to start. Also, sometimes the officer will want to assess if you can speak English. So they may say to you, did you have a lot of traffic? Or is it raining outside? So there may be some conversation. Many officers are dry and they don't want to have a large conversation. They will say, follow me. And so you would just follow that officer. Do not speak unless they speak to you. I would not start a conversation. There is a lot of good material out there on citizenship preparation. My agency, Jewish Family and Vocational Service, actually has citizenship preparation classes We have one in New Brunswick, and we have one in South River. So if you're interested in citizenship preparation, we invite you to attend our classes. Please give me a call, and I'll be happy to give you more information. But these classes are ESL, civics focused for those people who have green cards, who are preparing for the test. We will review the application, make sure you understand every word that's on the application, as well as go through the vocabulary that you will be expecting at the interview. The officer will ask you to remain standing, raise your right hand, and swear that you tell the truth. So be prepared. Don't say, "What? What are you saying?" You will know that they will ask you to swear that you're telling the truth. And you simply say, "I do," or "I will." Then they will tell you to be seated, and they will ask you for your green card, your passport, and your state ID. State ID is also a driver's license. Please have that in your hand and not going through all your papers to be looking for it, because they want to interview you as quickly as possible. So if you have those items, the green card, the passport, and the state ID in your hand, you simply present them to the officer, and this way you're not keeping him waiting. Then the officer will begin the interview. They will ask you your name, and then there may be some issue with your name based on what they have in the birth certificate. But it's a simple process. If you need to change your name, you can do so at that time. It's simply signing another document called a name change document. They will ask you the questions that we went over tonight. Your name, if you ever used any other names, if you wish to change your name. And they will go through your application just the way I did, and they'll have a pen, and they need to check off that they reviewed each part. And so they'll be reviewing just about every section. They'll ask you where you were born, they'll ask you your address, your phone number, and they will ask you if you're working, where you live now, and they will definitely say to you, when is the last time you traveled outside the United States? And you don't need to remember September 25th, 2007. You can simply say, I traveled in September to India, or I traveled to Mexico in October of 2009. Don't worry, they don't expect you to remember the exact dates of every single trip. But they will ask you the last time you traveled. If you traveled from the time that you applied, if you had another trip, then you simply say to the officer, I've traveled since I applied. I went to Mexico in November of 2010 for 17 days. And the officer will insert that on the application. They'll ask you if you're married and the name of your spouse. They will go through this. How many children do you have? Do not answer anything that they don't ask you. Just simply answer whatever they ask you. They don't want to have long conversations with you. They'll ask you a few of the general questions that are here. Did you ever claim to be a citizen? Did you ever register to vote? So listen carefully to the questions. Again, if you can go to a citizenship preparation class for a few sessions, it would help you. You will receive videos and materials to help you prepare for that interview. Then the officer will ask you questions from the good moral character about removal, and then they will definitely ask you, do you support the Constitution and form of government of the United States? Are you willing to take the oath of allegiance? Are you willing to do whatever your country asks you to do? And the answers should all be yes. Then they will ask you to sign where you couldn't sign before. They will ask you to print your name, and they will ask you to sign your name. And then the officer will ask you if you're ready for your test. So you each have received the 100 questions. Of the 100 questions, you need to answer 6 correctly. Once you answer 4 incorrectly, any 4, once you've hit 4 incorrectly, you fail the test. So while I've given you 100 questions, you don't know which ones they're going to be asking you. And so I urge you to study all the questions. Review 3 or 4 a night, and again, citizenship preparation class really helps. They review the questions again and again and again. You will be asked 6 questions. Once you get the 6 correct, then you've passed. They will not ask you any more. If you've answered 3 right and 2 wrong, they will wait until you have 6 correct. They will ask you the questions as I'm asking you now. What is the longest river in the United States? You will say the Mississippi. They will write Mississippi. And then on the bottom, they will write your score when you have 6 right, and they will ask you to initial the test.